Are there specific terms or processes related to banking that you found confusing as someone who just moved to India? What are some of the tax laws to keep in mind when you're a foreigner setting up a bank account and managing your finances in India?
Any interest you earn on your bank accounts, you also get taxed.
Hello and welcome to this podcast series, Navigate with HSBC. Now, if you're an expat who's living in India or thinking about moving here, we hope you're going to find this podcast quite helpful. What about sending money back home, remittances, international transactions you want to make living here in India? How easy or how hard has it been to do those?
For other expats, I've understood it to be either impossible or near torture to try and sort out. From my point of view, HSBC has been amazing on this. Ability for me now to use global money, the ability for me now to make sure payments can get back to the UK is pretty seamless. Mm-hmm. There's a scheme, the LRS, value on the amount of money you can send back.
Yeah.
And the impact of that is that they take the tax off as wire transaction at source, which is about 20%. So if you don't set that up correctly in the first place, basically every transaction you make is deducted 20%, and then you have to go back to the government to try and work out to get a rebate. But so for me, that I've not had that issue. HSBC have set me up. I'm registered. My account is linked with the government correctly. So all of those things have meant that I can transact back to UK. As
typically, what would you say are the big challenges when you're trying, whether it's currency conversion or these international transactions? What are the big challenges one could potentially face?
The problem others have had, and I can't speak, not necessarily speaking for myself. Mm-hmm. A lot of these things actually need to be you need to physically go and speak to someone. So, you could be dragged into a branch. You then have to agree your FX rates. You then have to agree, where the account it's going to. There's lots of verification on both ends of the transaction. So it becomes very complicated. And then also you get taxed. HSBC has not been that case. I'm using my global money, my dedicated relationship support and seamless kind of transactions. And I've not had a problem.
So, if you were to, be asked to give some tips to foreigners who are looking to make India their home, what would the top 5 or 6 things be to watch out for?
Well, first for me would be you've got to have a mobile SIM. Yeah. Like almost immediately, day one, somehow make sure you've got a SIM card.
Before you get any food here.
Yeah. I would almost sacrifice food, yeah. Probably my second one would actually be, don't eat too much biryani, because it is I probably
spend a month. Financial advice.
Yeah, I probably spent a month working off the food I ate the first time I arrived. So I'd say mobile SIM first, then somehow work out how to get yourself some sort of KYC proof of address. Get yourself set up on the UPI, and then make sure your UPI is linked to your bank account, and then make sure your wife is financially able to transact. Yeah. That doesn't rely on you having to authorize everything. And I think if you sort of got that structure quickly done, you're sort of up and away.
Okay. Is there anything you particularly wish you had known before you moved to India that would help make banking here easier?
Would like to have known. It's more lessons you've learned. Everything in India is a WhatsApp away. So, you can almost find you can find your banker, you can find a shop, you can find a merchant, and they all respond on WhatsApp. So suddenly communication with people is a lot easier.
Okay.
I think walking around with an international card, they invariably don't work for whatever reason. I don't quite know why that is. I don't know if it's so actually getting yourself some sort of local mechanism is actually really key, like really quickly. Before having the India bank accounts, because I had the global money account with HSBC, I didn't face that sort of challenge, so it was almost like having a local card. So that was all pretty positive.
All right. Do you think there are just to take that forward, any specific financial habits that foreigners that are looking to move to India should prioritize?
I think there's a big challenge for the foreigners in terms of how long they're going to be here. I think the HSBC particularly have a brilliant access to the mutual funds market. The dedicated relationship support can help you actually make investment decisions, which is really positive. Okay. So I think thinking about how long you're in the country for and how you can make best use of the financial services is pretty key. Because for me, I don't want the money just to be constantly just moving around. It's better to try and make use of it somehow.
The other thing that really goes hand in hand with finances and managing finances, banking, is taxation. What are some of the tax laws to keep in mind when you're a foreigner setting up a bank account and managing your finances in India?
Yes, I think I was alluded to a couple, but I think on the trying to make payments out, you get taxed. And any interest you earn on your bank accounts, you also get taxed. or you're going to be asked for tax. Yeah. And the difference is you have to then predict the interest, and you have to inform of so everything becomes looking ahead, and you have to make sure you're telling effectively the government a quarter in advance how much interest you'll get on your account and how many payments you're going to make out that need to be taxed. So that means you have to take a far more proactive stance on. Through HSBC, I have some help with those type of things. So I've got some advice. I would definitely say that actually having some Indian tax advice would be something
The way to go.
The way to go, yeah. And there's,
All right.
because some of them are complicated and sort of different to how we'd have done them previously.
What about managing your investments? Has that been easy or harder? How do you go about managing both your local investments and your international ones?
HSBC, again, I'm not as a plug, but everything is international on my accounts. I can see everything. So I have a global money, global accounts. I can see my UK.
Yeah.
So that for me actually has been very positive.
Are you just able to continue the investments you already had, moving here?
Yeah, I mean, within reason, I think, there are certain rules now back in the UK about what I can invest in, because I'm now not officially a UK employed individual being in India. Keep tabs of, what's going on there. I do think that for expats, taking Indian financials and the market seriously is actually something they should be thinking of. The returns feel better. The access to the markets is HSBC give us a lot more support to do these things, which I wouldn't get in other markets, which is very helpful for me.
So, if you're a foreigner looking to grow your wealth in India, what are some of the best practices to follow?
I think there's sort of new products actually that probably people didn't know about, sort of slightly shorter. So if people are only here for maybe a year or 2 years, there's actually availability for getting into some of the investment markets and mutual funds, in 6 months to a year long window. I don't think expats would even know that those type of things are available. It's sort of, some of the investments feel too far out of reach for people to access. But they're actually not. And you can get a return within, potentially, if you're only in secondment for 2 or 3 years, you can actually make something for your money. So yeah, and I've started to access that through HSBC, which has been positive so far. I don't think expats would necessarily know that you can do this. I think would be part of the challenge. I think people probably look at the basics of getting an account, then maybe a credit card. I don't think many people stretch to investments, yeah.
Wealth creation,
But I think actually you can do all three very easy.
Yeah, just moving your country should not be a reason to stop instead of doing that.
I completely agree.
Let me go back to the digital banking piece, because that is a big story in India. And you said how it's a little too easy now to transact with UPI and just be wary of how much money is going to flow out of your bank accounts. But, how is it overall, would you say, for someone who's watching this episode, who's looking to move to India, how is digital banking work for you so far?
I could buy a plane flight or a cup of coffee using my phone, same access, same scanner, same app, all linked, all verified. I see the OTPs. It's just a very, very different and fast-paced. So like I said, I don't have my wallet on me.
Yeah.
and also I think the other side of it's really interesting is that you can also receive money, so you don't have to ask people for their account numbers or anything. It literally is just
their mobile numbers.
They'll take your mobile number down, and then you'll just get an OTP saying someone's transferred you money.
So those are some of the India-specific digital tools you found helpful?
That I don't have. I've not had previously to coming here. Yeah.
Finally, I also wanted to ask: are there specific terms or processes related to banking that you found confusing as someone who just moved to India that you want to spell out for us?
So there are lots of forms to try and get yourself through. I'm in the process of trying to sort out my Aadhaar, which is to make myself an official. I've just been through the government office and waiting for that application to kind of go through. Getting yourself a PAN is very, very key. You need something that anchors yourself to the Indian government. I think is very helpful. So so I've tried to do a couple of the sort of big processes, but they're not really banking. So
just to summarize all of this for a foreigner looking to move to India, your quick takeaway of banking here, how the experience has been. You've already pointed out what to keep in mind, but should they worry? Should they not worry, and why?
I'd probably say 3. Get ready for that digital change.
Yeah,
it's brilliant. But get that mobile SIM and make sure you're ready for it. I would say get yourself with someone like HSBC who actually has global reach and actually can link your residential kind of home address to kind of India. It's super helpful. And then the third thing I say is don't think of India just as a place where you have your salary. Start thinking about credit cards and investment, funds, because actually being here a few years, I think the returns are better than we'd get in the West. So there are definitely, options to leverage.
All right. Tom, it's been a pleasure speaking with you, and thank you so much for candidly answering all of our questions.
No, thank you very much.
Thank you. On that note, it's a goodbye and a wrap on this episode of Navigate with HSBC. But do follow HSBC India across all of its social media handles to stay up to date as an NRI on any services or questions you may have, or you can visit www.hsbc.co.in. Goodbye again, and thank you for watching.